Thanks for joining us today from different time zones. We are very excited to see you here. My name is Goli. If you haven't met before, I'm the VP of Customer Success at FlexRule, and I have Arash here with me. Arash is the FlexRule founder. In our today's webinar, we are talking about very interesting hot topic these days, which is what is exactly decision intelligence, and also how do we start with decision intelligence. Before we start, just a few housekeeping items. First of all, we are recording this session. For any reason, if you need to jump off, we have your email address, and I'll personally make sure that we will send you the recording version after that. We love to hear from you. I'm online in a chat. If there is anything you'd like to share with me, please put it there, and I would definitely respond as soon as possible. At the end of this session, we have a Q&A. We allocated around 5 minutes to any questions you have in mind. There is a Q&A box on the Zoom window. Please put your question there. We read it, and at the end of the session, we will answer your questions. Great. Let's start with a quick intro about us. We are FlexRule. We are a company based in Melbourne, Australia, and our mission is to empower all leaders, business, operations, and IT in organizations to improve speed and quality of key business decisions in changing environments. Proudly, we have customers around the world, North America, Europe, Asia Pacific, of course, and interestingly, across a wide range of industries, such as finance, government, leasing, and etc. Great. With no further ado, to start our exciting webinar, I'm going to hand over to Arash. And Arash, stage is yours.
Awesome. Okay. So
yeah, thanks, Arash. Yeah, I'm good.
So there is a famous story from a Persian poet and philosopher Rumi that is called The Elephant in the Room. And the story goes like that. So they took an elephant in a dark room, and people coming to the room with the closed eyes try to identify what is this creature. And by touching the elephant, different parts of the elephant, they try to imagine what is this creature in the room. Someone touches the trunk, they think it's a hole. Someone touches the feet, they think it's a pillar. Someone touches the ear, they think it's a fan. And this is exactly the story of decision intelligence. To demystify decision intelligence, we just need to turn on light and step back and understand exactly what is the landscape of decision-making in organization. So during the recent years, decision-making in organizations is more complex than before. 65% of organizations say the decision they make today is more complex than 2 years ago. And 53% believe that they have to explain and justify the decisions they make. So this is by far a different landscape that we used to have in organizations. Let's understand the reasoning behind this shift of landscape in decision-making. Decisions are more complex, not only because organizations want to consider wide range of consideration and more personalization, but also because it involves more stakeholders, internally and externally stakeholders. The other element for shifting this landscape is because decisions have nowadays more far-reaching impact. Decisions impact can reach inside organizations, inside the enterprise, to the product that we build, and all the way down to the supply chain, and all the way back to the product design and consideration based on the dynamic of the market, the requirements and the demand from the customers, and we can trace it back to the ecosystem of the partners in how we engage with them, how we deal with the training and bringing them on board and make sure that they are successful. So you can say it's like a dominoes effect. A change of a business decision will impact down the track to the ecosystem, product design, and etc. The other piece to this shifting landscape is because the pace of business has increased. This change in the pace of business is blurring the line between strategic, tactical, and operational decisions. In the hierarchical model, these decisions used to be made by different group of people in organizations. But this blurring line means we are going to think about all of it at once, and the decision will impact any of them. And on top of all these three items, the investment of organizations in technologies such as AI, machine learning, data analytics, dashboard, data warehousing, and all of these related technologies has increased significantly. Because the belief is that such a technology helps organizations to make better business decisions, and therefore they have a better business outcome. However, there is a big gap between this belief and the idea of what the business decision really is. So if we want to start improving business decisions considering these three elements and the investment, where should we start? That's the big question. Do we start with machine learning and ML and training algorithm, or do we start with dashboard and data visualization, or data warehousing, data quality, or do we start with business processes and understanding the business decisions? So if we start with the machine learning AI algorithm, the problem is we will face the type 3 error, meaning all the right math and all the right data to solve the wrong problem. And it's going to be something like we go to the organization, we find the right data set, we apply the relevant algorithm, we train the model, we work on the accuracy of it. When we go to the business, they're just not interested in that particular problem we thought is important. It's not important for the business, that particular problem that we solve. So that's the type 3 error. All the right math and all the right data to solve the wrong problem. And it happens often than what we think. So do we start with data visualization and data exploration? Maybe if we want inspiration and we don't have any idea about the organization decision making, we can start with that. The problem though is this cannot be the source of improving business decisions, because human as we are the big intelligent confirmation bias machine. We can find human face in toast. We can find anything in the data. And if we focus on the data management part of it, data quality, data validation, data warehousing, surprisingly and shocking report shows that 60 to 73% of the data we manage are not used in organizations. And what that means is by the time we finish the data warehousing and data lake and data validation in the enterprise-wide and data quality projects, organization has moved on. They're not interested in the rest of the story we wanted to do. So that's a big loss in terms of effort that it brings. The point of view that we cannot start with the data at this point. So what if we start with business process? And I'm sure as I say this, all of my business process friends are going to hate me, but business process is not fundamental of organizations nor fundamental to the decision making. 2 centuries ago, deep thinkers thought earth, water, air, and fire are fundamentals of universe. Today no, it's not. And I know for a fact it's not because I studied physics. If you look at Earth, you can see there are lots of elements and they interact with each other and they project themselves to a user interface surface that is called Earth. Same principle applies to business process. Lots of business decisions happening underneath in organizations, They reflect back and they project themselves to organizations like a business process. If we want to understand and improve business decisions, we need to look beyond the surface and user interface, which means business process is not the right tool. So where do we go from here? Not looking at the data because it's biased and the data warehousing project is kind of not as useful as we thought it is. Not looking at the business process because it's not the fundamental to decision making, and not look at the AI and algorithm, not start with those because it's gonna end up with the type 3 error. If we look at the Gartner's decision intelligence definition, it says it's a practical discipline used to improve decision making by explicitly understanding and engineering how decisions are made, outcomes are evaluated, managed, and improved by feedback. So that's exactly where we should start, with decision intelligence. The question is, though, how we can start with decision intelligence. So decision-centric approach is a decision intelligence framework that brings people, processes, data, and rules into a unified platform so organizations can start making optimized, situation-aware, and customer-centric business decisions in changing environments while they are aligned with business objectives. So decision-centric approach has 3 stages: the discovery phase, the automate phase, and the scale phase. And let's get started our decision intelligence project with the decision-centric approach at the first stage of discovery. We talked about framing business decisions in other webinars, and we can send the link later on in the video that we're going to send you. But the idea of the discovery stage of decision-centric approach is that at the end of the discovery phase, you can frame and manage business decisions. If you go to an organization and you have no idea how an organization works, you can look at the operational data, you can look at the analytical data, you can do visualization, all of that for inspiration. But at the end of the day, the aim is to understand how the decision-making works in that organization. And that's the outcome, the artifact of the discovery phase, which you can then manage it. Let's assume we don't know anything in that organization. So the first thing we do, we go to the organizations, we find some data sources, and we try to understand and connect these data together. And very interestingly, more often than not, the big data sources are sitting still in the relational databases. So using the decision intelligence, we can visually create the data queries and complex parameterization for the queries. So we don't necessarily need to rely on IT team. And then we can have our inspiration. We can visualize data. We can look at the data to understand where is it applicable, how is it applicable. We can create some visualization rules, and we can create some graphs and charts based on the rules that we associate with the data. And very importantly, we can understand the correlation and relationship between the field of information in the data. Particularly, it's important when we go down the path of automating the particular business decisions. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But as you can see, this is all about inspiration. And once you've done that, we are back to the big picture, the blueprint of the business decision. We frame a business decision in a decision graph, which is decomposing a complex business decisions to more smaller, understandable decision units. And we can stop there in the journey of the decision intelligence. We just need to go and manage this, meaning send this particular business decision into the centralized repository. That itself, this decision graph, has a lot of value to offer to organizations. First of all, it tells exactly how a particular decision is made. It understands all the stakeholders. It shows you the impact of the decision. It shows you how influence the rest of the decision you might need for your product design, you might need for your sale process, you might need, for example, for ecosystem of the partners. So it is all there, and transparently it communicates to all the stakeholders. So that itself has a significant value. If you don't know how the decision is made, the problem is though you cannot improve it. It's like you're an architect, you're going to a building to do some improvements without any plan in your hand. That's going to end up with a big disaster. And the decision graph, by framing a complex business decision and managing it across multiple departments and processes and across your value chain, allows you to build that blueprint of business decisions. You can manage it by sending it to central repository, you can revision it, you can verify it, etc. So that gives you a very clear idea about what are those business decisions. At this point, you create a decision audit, and this decision audit allows you to prioritize on the decisions that has the most significant value on the outcome that organization wants. Therefore, you're not going to face type 3 problems. You have a plan, and it is very clear what problem organization is interested to solve based on this decision graph. Once you've done that, you can stop there, but if you want, you can level up and automate most repeatable part of this business decision graph or business decision audit based on the importance of that for your organization, which is the second stage of the decision intelligence framework called decision-centric approach. So it talks about how now we understand what the business decisions are, we understand the most important of them, which one of them are bringing more values to organizations, and which one of them are more repeating. So now let's understand how we can automate them. So business decisions are a bit more complex than other typical concepts in organizations, because it's a very decision itself has a very complex behavior, and as I mentioned before, the interaction of multiple decisions surface to the user interface, a simple user interface called business process. Therefore, to automate the business decisions, we might need multiple different technologies working together. So if you look at any decision graph, which decomposes the complex business decisions to multiple decision units, now you focus on one of those business units, decision unit, you might find a decision unit might be rule-driven. Therefore, you need rule-driven decisioning and rule-driven automation to automate that particular decision unit. If a decision unit is based on the data and machine learning kind of behavior, you can use decision analytics to train a model based on the data, and you put that back into the decision graph you already created. At any point of time, a decision unit outcome might be inconclusive. Therefore, you need a human in the loop, a domain expert that intervenes the decision and overrides the inconclusive or inappropriate outcome. And just automating the business decision, the result doesn't fly automatically to the operation of the business. You need to make sure you explicitly get the result from the decision, automated decision, and put it back into the operation, meaning put it back into the information systems, putting back into the processes, putting back into the operation of the business. And for doing that, you need to have a robotics module that allows you to integrate the result of outcome of the decision, the result of the decision, back to the operation of the business. And as you can see, in order to make sure all of these different technologies work together, you need an orchestration layer that orchestrates between all of these technologies, get the result, feed it to the decision graph, and automate a particular complex business decision. So let's see how that works in action. So we started with framing business decision, and we created the decision graph, which you can see at the top of the screen. In any decision graph, you have the input requirements for that decision. So that input is feeding the facts and information to the decision graph for the purpose of automation. Now, that specific data requirement for a decision graph has a specific structure. As you can see, you can use, for example, in this particular case, a fact concept to define what are the data requirements of this particular information flowing into the decision graph. So the data input is linked to a fact concept which specifies what set of information is needed for the automation. Now, as I mentioned, each of these boxes in the decision graph are a specific decisioning unit. Now, if a decision unit is rule-driven, you have multiple options. What you see on the screen is a decision table that allows you to combine multiple conditions and multiple actions to fulfill a particular decision unit. Still, if a decision unit is rule-driven, other form of rule modeling is called natural language. With building the business glossary and business terminologies around your domain, you can use them to model a particular set of business rules to satisfy the requirement for a decision unit. You can see everything, it goes back to the decision graph that we just created. If a particular decision unit is supposed to use more advanced technologies like machine learning and AI and automated algorithm that we created, either inside the FlexRule or outside the FlexRule platform, you can bring them. But again, that allows you to link that particular algorithm to the decision graph that you frame a business decision with it. So it shows exactly how a decision graph, that decision unit is satisfied with that machine algorithm that you trained. And once you've done that, it's time for a demo to show you in action.
Yes, I can see your screen. Arash, FlexRule Designer.
Excellent.
I can see it.
So, let me close all of that. The environment you see on my screen is called FlexRule Designer. This is the authoring platform for management and automation of business decisions, and of course the scaling part of it, which we didn't talk through that in this particular webinar. What you see on the screen is a specific business, decision graph in the claim processing in health that calculates a premium for a particular applicant. So the way decision graph works, I'll give you a quick intro. You look at the top decision, and it is all about decomposing a complex decision to a smaller, easier to understand decision unit. So if you look at the calculate health premium, what you're gonna see is two immediate decisions dependency. So if you look at from the calculate health premium point of view, we need to calculate the base premium, and we need to apply situational decisions. Now, if you look at the situational decision point of view, that has two other dependencies about the discount and about the copy. If you look at the base premium point of view, it has two immediate dependencies, extra charges calculation and baseline pricing calculation. And if you look at the extra charges calculation, you can see it has three dependencies: income, cover type, and residency status. So all of a sudden, you can see this decision graph encapsulates all the requirements you want, all the requirements about calculating the health premium. Now you can drill down to different parts of this decision graph. If you select a particular node, decision unit, you can drill down here and you can see, for example, a decision table. If you go, for example, select the income, you can go here and you can see rules in the natural language model. By the way, we call this natural language because if you look at one of them, this one says rule number 2, when income is less than 70,000 and job type is part-time, then add 40 to income charges. So you can naturally read through it. If we go drill down on this part, this is interesting. So you can see everything comes back to the blueprint of the particular business decision, which is the decision graph. If we drill down to this, this is a very simple decision graph model, but this one is based on a trained machine learning that we attach to the decision graph. So you can see all the algorithm that we use with the AutoML capability that we try to optimize the model based on the data we provided, and how the model is responding to different features. So that permutation feature importance allows you to explain why a particular instance works in a certain way against this particular graph. So that's about more explainability of your AI model. And now, once you have this, it's very clear how you can make that particular decision. In Flexro Designer, though, you can put the designer in the debug simulation mode. And as soon as you do that, you can see the yellow arrow, yellow highlighting on the screen. It shows you exactly where a particular decision is about to start. And you can, you have a full control going back and forth to details of every decision or every machine algorithm on the execution. I just stopped it for the this particular execution, and you can see based on the rules, the machine learning, and the other decisions we had, we calculated different values for different parts of the model, which involved at the end of it to calculate all the components of the health premium for that matter. So you can see we didn't start with the data, we didn't start with machine learning, and we didn't start with the dashboard and business process. We started with the understanding of the particular outcome we want, which is calculating the health premium. Then we framed the business decision, meaning we decompose that into the easier understandable decision unit, and then we drill down to each individual decision unit and model it in different ways. Some of them are rule-driven, which we use two different rules technology, natural language and decision table. Some of them are machine learning driven, so we train the model and we use that trained model in the graph, and that's how it works. All of them come together to create a value for calculating the health premium in this particular business decision. And that's all for me for now. So just to summarize, a decision intelligence framework allows you to focus on business decisions rather than focusing on different technologies, and bring everything back to the blueprint of business decision, which is the decision graph. And this is not just a visual representation, although if you wanted it, you could stop at the first stage of discovery, but we went ahead and we automated that particular model with different technologies.
Okay, Arash, we have a couple of questions. Let me just bring the questions here. Okay. One of the questions is that after building the model, what are the deployment options?
So there are multiple different deployment options. It really depends on your strategy, whether you want to go on the cloud or on-prem. So we support both of it. And deployment generally is one click away. So if you click on this button, you can see out of the box, we support different deployment options. So you can have your infrastructure for executing a decision, whether on cloud or on-prem using FlexRoute server, or if you want to go with serverless architecture out of the box, we support Azure Function, AWS Lambda, and Google Function. And it is as simple as putting your cloud subscription information here, and that's all it takes to deploy. With single click on the publish button, it deploys this particular decision graph, which involves multiple different type of logic together to your cloud infrastructure or on-prem for that matter.
Okay. We have one interesting question, Arash. One of them is that, what is the impact on a company culture by applying this new way of thinking from your perspective?
That's very interesting. So decision-making culture in companies are categorized in two particular decision-making culture. One is permission culture, meaning whatever you want to do, you need to get approval, you need to talk to your supervisor, and it's a permission culture for decision-making. The other opposite side of it is constraint-based decision-making culture, meaning you can do whatever you want to do as long as you are staying in the guardrails. So there is a constraint, for example, for budget, but can you buy Dell laptop, or can you buy your servers, or can you buy your computer? It's your call. So there is a constraint on how the decisions are made, and that's all it takes. So if you're looking at the first part, which is the permission-based decision-making, this approach allows you to do more flexible processes. For example, in approval process, you can have a decision around who's the first immediate person that requires to approve my request. So that itself is a decision. You can still improve a particular process in the permission-based decision-making culture. In the constraint-based decision culture, this plays significantly well inside those companies, because then it allows the authority, whoever is taking that decision, to start innovating and play with the different parameters within that constraint, which then you can model that constraint into the decision graph itself, and then it gives you the ability to play with many different parameters to see which one of those decisions have a better outcome.
Okay. We still have a little bit of time, Arash. I want to ask just two more questions. One of them is that, how do you ensure that the decision you are analyzing is relevant and produce actual business value for the company?
That's a very excellent question. So one of the problems with starting with the machine learning and AI and algorithm was because you didn't have any visibility what is important for the business. However, when you frame a business decision, that is exactly what it tells to you. So you go to different parts of the business, you frame different business decisions, you create a decision audit, and based on that, you understand calculating the health premium in an optimized way. It actually reduces the churn for the customer from your insurance company. So that tells you exactly what decision is important based on the outcome and objective that business has. Now you frame that business decision to more easier to understand decision unit, and the rest is the story that we talked about here. So you have a clear visibility on what is important based on the objective of the business.
Fantastic. There is one more question that maybe you can elaborate more, Arash. How could we learn about competitive landscape from the right tools perspective?
Decision intelligence is a new paradigm. Gartner is still building the market guideline, and there are few reports there that talks about the landscape of the vendors that provide technology. But what is interesting about the business intelligence is you can see there are many different segments and many different vendors try to come to this particular product category. However, there are certain minimum requirement criteria to be truly a decision intelligence platform, which if you look at the Gartner, you can see them. And we probably have written a blog post about it. Guli can share later on.
Great. One more question, Arash, is how does your framework, the framework that you just discussed, enable
decision intelligence approach
enable to consider as well, enable the soft skill or human factors in decision?
That's an excellent question. So if I share my screen again, you see my screen?
Yes.
So soft skills. So the first stage of decision-centric approach is the discovery. And what it is going to happen is you need to have a very good communication skills to interview different stakeholders in the business area that you're working. The whole stage of the discovery aiming to produce a decision audit with multiple different decision graphs about the particular objective of a business decision and the outcome they want. And that means particular outcome in different areas of the business have their own owners. So there are multiple different owners need to be involved in that discussion. And in order to understand the dependency of the decisions and all of that, that's where the communication skills and people skills come into the picture.
Okay, and last one before we go is that you showed some data visualization, Arash. How does that work?
So data visualization is an interesting part of the framework because it's not about starting framing a business decision with visualization. It's all about getting inspired with the data where you don't know where to start. And you simply can drag and drop in our user interface different data sources, and you connect them to the data. You can write filters and rules about that data, and then that's where you can start investigating the relationship of the fields of the data and so on. So get inspired, build the decision audit, frame the business decision, and that's the way you go.
Great. It seems like an interesting topic. There was too many questions. There are more coming, but we don't have much time, Arash. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are running a series of webinars this year. If you have any topic that you have in mind, please share it with us, info@flexroll.com, and we know that what topic is more interested to you.
And we're going to go back with the answers to you guys that you added in the chat. Don't worry about it. Guli is collecting them, and we're going to get back to you with the relevant responses.
Absolutely. Great. Thanks, Arash, for the presentation.
Thank you, everyone.
Nice to see you all.